go there. Most people who think of palmistry, they don't at all consider that the fingernails also help in reading hands. So they're mainly used to check for health issues. However, they do show personality as well. So what shows the personality is the shape and size of the fingernail. In most cases, the nail will depend on the shape of the fingertip. So you might have a bulbous fingertip, or you might have a skinny fingertip like this. A bulbous tip like that thumb there would probably have a large nail, not a small one. So yeah, it depends on the shape of the finger. So, and in some circumstances, the nail can actually change shape over time. For instance, a fan-shaped nail, which is one that is sort of pointed, if I'm drawing one here, sort of pointy down. I'll probably have a picture of it later. Fan-shaped nail is narrower here. Look, I'm a terrible drawer. Okay, so it's like a triangle. All right. So a fan-shaped nail can form over long-term stress or nervousness or anger even. And the nails can get smaller when the health gets weaker. So over a long period of time, they can actually change shape. So you're not stuck with the same shaped nail all your life. Or you can be, but yeah, depends. Next. The length and width of the nail. So reasonable length of a nail is half of the length of the top phalange. I don't know if you can see these arrows here. So that's the top phalange, that area there. So an average fingernail goes halfway. Now I have to pause this because my phone's ringing. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that disruption. Okay, so an average nail length is half of the top phalange. So you know it's a short nail or a small nail if it's smaller than half. So if it goes up like there, right at the tip. A full nail shows good health, caution and sensibility. These kind of people tend to be kind, sympathetic and practical. Square nail. This is mostly seen on the thumb, but it can be found on other fingers as well. As you can see, it's this bottom area here that we look at mainly, because anyone can get the top of the nail and cut it square, or that, you know, if they can grow it and they can grow it round. So the square nail, we're looking at where it grows from. And that depicts the most stable kind of personality. They have general good health and an even temper, unless it's a very tiny nail. So these people are somewhat serious-minded. They are practical, reliable, honest and upfront. They are usually very kind-natured. You probably can't see that other script there, but I've pretty well just repeated all that. And next, a rectangle nail. So that is the square, but it's a longer and narrow nail. So it is relatively wide. If relatively wide, it shows someone more cautious. They will put a lot of thought into decisions. They're a deep thinker. They're tolerant, sympathetic, and easygoing. If the nail is long, they can lack some diplomacy. If the rectangle nail is narrow, it shows delicate health, impatience, narrow-mindedness, and someone who is afraid to take risks. So I've seen this kind of nail, and I especially agree with the lack of diplomacy side of it. Next. the broad nail. You can see the nail goes all the way to the edge of the finger. That is a very broad nail. So that can show some lack of common sense. If it's also very short with a gap between the nail and the fingertip, so it like reaches only to there, short and wide, that is someone who's very critical of other people. They're very strong opinions and they have probably a quick temper. If it's wide and long, then they'll be very straightforward, but they'll be open and honest. An oval or a round nail. I hope you can see this round nail I've got here. At where it grows, it goes completely around, and literally, I can't draw a round circle with my pen, but yeah, you should be able to see that nail is round, and this one is round at the bottom. The one at the top with the nail polish is round at the bottom, and it's a very oval looking nail. So that is the most widespread shape that portrays a balanced and well-rounded character, someone who rarely becomes angry or spiteful. If it's long or pointed at the tip, physical health may not be as robust as it could be. A broad, round nail suggests someone adaptable with a gentle and kind personality. And the roundness of the nail also makes them very creative. If it's very small and round, they may lack some physical or psychological strength. Now the narrow nail. It's common to have a narrow nail on the pinky, so mostly disregard the pinky nail. That is recognized by a lot of flesh showing on either side of the nail, and if all the nails are narrow, it suggests a lack of strength, a weak constitution, or a sensitive nervous system. These people are often materialistic and they are afraid to take risks. If also short, it's a sign of someone emotionally immature with a selfish, narrow-minded nature. And I've also seen that. It's especially true if all the fingernails are very small and very narrow. Obviously, that can occur through chewing fingernails. If you're constantly chewing, it can make your nails smaller and smaller and smaller. But for some reason, it affects your character as well. So, like I said before, about the small nail. So it's one that begins closer to the tip of the finger instead of halfway along the first phalange. People with small nails are curious, they have a sharp mind, and they're often quite witty. An extremely small nail can depict emotional immaturity and low resistance to illness. I think this might be the last one. Here's the fan-shaped nail that I tried to draw earlier. So that can suggest two very different things, but not necessarily at the same time. One is that it shows a lack of vitality, long-term nervousness, long-term stress or illness. In this particular finger, you can see the nail is actually white. I'll do a different video on the nail color and markings on the nails later on. We're just talking about the shapes this time. So it can be a sign of long-term stress or illness. The other aspect that indicates is that someone who is highly determined, perhaps quite sensitive, neurotic, or bad-tempered. If only found on one finger, it can actually point to the area of concern. For instance, on the pinky, which I've written here, Mercury finger, they may have some intimacy issues. On the ring finger, the Apollo finger, they may have creative obstacles. So they're probably a very creative person because the ring finger represents creativity. So they might be very creative, but there's obstacles in reaching their creative goals, or they have been for a long time. On the Saturn finger, which is the middle finger, there may be some worry over money. And on the Jupiter finger, which is the index finger, that shows long-term feelings of powerlessness. So that's very interesting when you see the fan-shaped nail on just one specific finger. Check out more videos up there. Subscribe here.